WBNE.
Hello and welcome to episode 161, all about the Silmarillion, chapter 21 of Túrin, Turumbar, being the 161st part of That's What I'm Talking About. Hello, my name is Mary Clay. If that's too complicated for you, just call me MC. I've been experiencing the world of J.R.R. Tolkien for the first time, and right now I am reading the Silmarillion, so you don't have to. Today I'm joined once again by the Sillymarillion duo, Tori and Paul. Welcome back.
Hello. Sillymarillion is quite a mouthful, as if Silmarillion wasn't enough of a mouthful.
It's a pain in the ass to spell out our Patreon name on air as we're going.
I mean, it's no more a mouthful than That's What I'm Talking About, which is a very long name that I hate having to type out. And I usually just use the acronym TWITA. So
TWITA. Yeah. I never heard it like that.
Or I'll just say talking about and assume that people know what I'm talking about.
Anyway.
Hey. Dude.
That's what I'm here for. I have one joke and I'm gonna beat it like a dead horse. Listeners, we are all giving Tori and Paul a round of applause because I sprung this chapter on them very last minute. There was some behind the scenes things going on with coordination and scheduling and whatnot, and they courageously jumped in with probably the hefty, I think this is way more intense and hefty than Baron and Luthien and anything I've read so far. So first shout out for that, but also I reached out to y'all to come back because a couple, probably maybe like a month and a half ago now, there was a terrible period on Twitter where I was being trolled by just awful people.
That's when you know you've made it in the Tolkien fan base, is when the trolls find you.
When the racists start popping out of doors.
And this isn't even me being like, oh, I'm just going to assume these people have these bad ideologies. When I was going through their profiles and seeing other stuff that they tweet about, I'm like, oh no, they're openly proud of the fact that they're white nationalists, and they're openly mocking violence against women. They are bad people. Anyway, but the bright side of that period is that for every person that I blocked, I decided to donate some money. I think it was Pride Month, so I think I originally said LGBT organization, and then I think the next day Roe v. Wade got overturned.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was a great time in America.
So I said I would donate an amount for however many people I blocked, and many people stepped in and said that they would also donate. You two being some of those wonderful people, and so I just want to publicly let the people know how wonderful you both are, that you helped support me during this terrible time, and you also gave back to some really wonderful organizations. And I think we all three gave to different organizations. So listeners, if you're interested in also giving, I'll leave those links in the episode description. But that was really long and rambly, but the Tolkien community sometimes is nice when people aren't being terrible, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that, but I love the idea of donating for every person you blocked. It was a good way to spin it to a good thing.
Yeah.
And everyone needs a Mary Brandy Buck who just kind of pops up and is like, hey, I think I know what you're going through. Do you need help?
Yes. That's yes.
Tori, we haven't reached that part yet. You haven't read that part in the books yet. So.
I haven't. I went through the same thing, though, a couple weeks ago when I was very excited about Black Elves. And I also had just a bunch of people coming after me, including a actual confirmed Nazi murderer who's banned from his country.
Oh my god.
And it was just me. It was just me being excited.
Is it the Norway guy? The guy who's just not allowed in Norway anymore?
All my friends were like, do not engage with this person. He has literally murdered someone. And I was like, cool. And that's why my Twitter handle right now is your favorite black elf, because whenever someone engages with me, it's like they're talking to their favorite black elf, and it's just me being like, hey.
Yes. Yeah, I forget the actor's name who plays, I don't even know what his character's name is.
Is it
It's me all the
Ishmael
time.
Cruz Cordova?
Ishmael Cruz.
Oh.
Yeah, Cordova, Ishmael Cruz,
Arondir?
Cordova.
Arondir?
I believe they're
Thank you.
calling him.
That was the person who I said I wanted to join you and just talk about for an hour because I'm so excited about him.
Yes, yeah. He posted this like really beautiful, wonderful caption on Instagram from being at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was like him in front of like a giant billboard of him as an elf and talking about like how meaningful that is for him, and like I was just like, I'm just so happy for just like so many people, and you know, screw anyone else who can't share in this excitement and happiness for everyone, you know?
I am glad that like we see like actually quite a few like popular people in the Tolkien fandom coming out and giving their support. Like I think the Tolkien professor went to the San Diego Comic-Con and he got to see it. Like the several big TikTokers whose big thing is talking about Lord of the Rings lore.
Oh yeah.
They went and it looks like they had a great time. And so
if I had known, see, here's the thing is that I'm not.
And you're like, where's my ticket?
Yeah, first of all, where's my ticket? I'm still only slightly bitter that I wasn't invited to that Tolkien event in Oxford earlier this year.
You
too.
and us both.
Anyway, I'm not a big like Comic-Con type person. I mean, I've never been to a Comic-Con, but I just think I would be overwhelmed and stressed out and uncomfortable. So I haven't been to any, but seeing all of the different Tolkien creators going, I was like, I would have gone just to hang out with y'all. like forget everything else that we learned that week and that weekend from the different panels and Q&As and whatever. I was like, I just want to hang out with all of y'all.
Honestly, that was like I got to do that last September when there was a big Tolkien Twitter moot in LA, and I flew up to LA and I met all these people I met online, and I'm like, oh my god, we can all be nerdy together. We can all dress like hobbits and just talk about nerdy stuff. It's amazing.
I haven't heard of anything happening this year, but I'm like, I kind of want it to happen again because the Tolkien Twitter friend group has just kind of grown more.
Do we have to make our own?
Make your own event, yeah.
Maybe this is the announcement.
Our Rings of Power premiere.
Mary Clay, you have like a month to buy your flight. Let's go.
Oh, geez.
Less than a month.
I just want to know where it's, because, you know, there's LeakyCon, which is a con specifically for Harry Potter. I think there needs to be... what would
think of the clever name right now?
I don't. Is
that too original?
I'll workshop it and get back to y'all.
Con or something.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, the council. The
Council of Elrond.
CONcil of Elrond. That's it. CONcil of Elrond. There we go. Buy your tickets,
Perfect.
Everyone. It's going to end up like TanaCon.
Hell yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyway,
even though this is a delightful conversation, we don't have time for this, y'all. We don't have time for willy-nilly conversations. Because this is the most intense chapter I've ever read in my life. And I was in a one-act version of the short story The Lottery, in which someone is stoned to death. And we did it with rural Irish accents.
Ooh.
So
with that one, you get away with minimal incest, though.
yes, minimal incest.
Let me ask you, MC, did you have any inkling of what happens in this chapter? Or were you just... no spoilers, you're just like, wait a second, did I read that correctly?
People told me, they were like, it's really tragic. Like, it's a really intense, sad story that's really heartbreaking. And so the way it was going, describing the separation that he has between him being in Doriath and his mother and sister being in Hithlum, I was like, oh, something's going to happen where like he accidentally kills them. Like, I don't know, or like he is accidentally killed, because at one point the armor that he wears completely covers him, and I was like, oh, or he's gonna get killed on the battlefield, and you know, something's gonna happen where they kill each other, or you know, they find each other or and are reunited just before death separates them again.
You had a good idea there. You're like parallel to the actual story.
Someone is accidentally killed.
I wouldn't say that any of what I thought was going to happen is parallel to anything of what actually happened. So
there was a reunion. Some people did die.
Some. Oh my gosh.
Quite a bit of mistaken identity.
Oh, so, here we go. Buckle up, everyone.
Yeah, buckle up. Remember Huar and Hurin, everyone? Well, one of them's dead. The other one is captured by Morgoth. Don't worry about it.
One of them's dead and had an unfortunate name.
Yes. We have a little reminder that Rian is the wife of Huar, and they have a son named Tuar. And Huar died in the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, or whatever it was called in the previous chapter.
I do believe it is pronounced Huor and Tuor.
What am I saying?
You were going R. You're going R. It's or.
Oh, okay.
Tuor.
Huor.
Huor. Yes.
Okay, got it.
There we go.
Well, quite an unfortunate
the
name.
good news is that they don't really. They're not really that involved in this chapter.
True.
So we can forget about them immediately, which is kind of hilarious. And then we are told about Morwen, the wife of Hurin. And they have a son, Túrin. And they also had a daughter named Laliath. But she died when she was 3, and Túrin was very close with her. And again, this is why I was like, oh, like he already had a sister who died when they were very young. Like that's so sad, and they were close. I was like, oh, this is going to play into some of what happens with his other sister in the future. I don't know. So the big battle... The fifth battle, I'm not going to say the elven name because it's nonsense. The fifth battle is happening, and Morwen believes that the Easterlings are going to take Hurin and take him... No, Túrin.
I don't even
Hurin's
bother trying
already
to
been
remember
taken.
all these names. I just look at Paul, I'm like, is that correct? So you're doing great, MC. You're doing great.
Also, more, it's not Laliath, it's Lalaith, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll just say it, Nernaith Arnoidiad for the battle.
One more time, please. Run that back.
Nernaith Arnoidiad.
See, it doesn't matter how many times you tell me how to pronounce it, my mouth will not form those syllables.
Yeah.
I've tried it, doesn't work. It's like how, for some reason, despite Prisoner of Azkaban being my favorite of the Harry Potter movies, my mouth cannot correctly pronounce the director's name, and his name is Alfonso Cuarón. But like,
you see the letters and you're like, that doesn't
R's,
work.
Like, and the vowels, and there's an accent in there. It doesn't flow out of my.
He does have quite a
white
elf-like last name, so
mouth.
maybe Elven is just not your thing.
It's not at all. Maybe Dwarven. We'll try that next week. Okay, anyway, so Morwen thinks that the Easterlings are possibly going to take Túrin away from her. I think it's implied that she maybe learns that this is going to happen, or gets hints that this could happen from one of her friends who is married to an Easterling. And they come back into play later. And so Morwen sends Túrin to the safety of Doriath, which I was like, good luck there. Like, Thingol notoriously has like stayed out of everything, but then I guess Baron came and changed everything for him.
And I believe Morwen is a cousin of Baron.
Oh, okay. Are they okay? And yeah, that would make sense. I forget these guys that were, for the most part, the characters that we're talking about in this chapter are human, except for a few elves speckled in here and there. So
For a few
these
love
are
interests.
men. Yeah. And so Thingol welcomes him into Doriath, into the girdle of Melian. It just says Thingol's mood was changed towards the houses of the elf friends. And I'm like, okay, I guess we just have to take his word for it. Like, there wasn't really much in Baron and Luthien, like, at the end showing that, like, transformation or, like, how he would have, like, come to those feelings. So I guess we just assume it's because...
I guess when his life is saved by Baron, he's like,
he's changed his mind.
wow,
Yeah, that
have
would
my
make
daughter.
sense. Yeah. For a few years, Túrin and Morwen exchange letters and messages, and she sends to Doriath at some point the dragon helm of Dorlomin, which is their house's heirloom, the set of armor, the dragon helm. Unfortunately, there gets to a point where the messengers stop returning. So Thingol's like, I'm not wasting any more of my men to talk to your mother. Sorry, kiddo. Eventually, the war is waging on with Morgoth. So Túrin goes out to fight and battle. And he, in this process, becomes friends with Baelig. What is it? Baelig Strongbow. That's
Yes.
it.
My
Beleg
favorite
Cuthalion.
character in all of the Silmarillion, which
He's
was
a
my
pretty-
biggest mistake.
Yeah. Just don't have a favorite
We
character
will learn.
ever. Baelig is a bro. He's pretty cool. We're not going to worry about it much for now. And so they're out battling and, doing manly stuff and fighting the war. And 3 years passes and they return. And Túrin, about this time, just so everyone has like a reference for what's going on, I think he's about like 21 years old. So he is either, early 20s or late teens. That's kind of like where we're kicking things off with his age, if you're curious. And so Túrin comes back, and while he was gone, this elf named Saros,
Saros, I believe.
Started, he's mad. He's frustrated with Túrin. He hates him because Thingol has taken him in as a foster son, and he has certain honors about him, even though he's just, a man. So Saros hates him, and Túrin's like, come at me, bro. Fine.
Exactly.
Like, put your money where your mouth is. One night at dinner, Saros insults the women, the people of Hithlum, and Túrin like throws something at him.
A drinking vessel.
Yeah,
so
a
it's
drinking
like he
vessel,
basically takes a cup and just hucks it at his head.
Yes, so dramatic. And then the next day, Túrin is trying to leave Menegroth, but Saros stops him, and then Túrin like fights him off and somehow strips him of his clothes, and Saros then goes running through the woods and accidentally falls like off a cliff and dies.
And that's it. And that's all,
Yeah.
folks.
You ever accidentally just do that? Chase a man naked through the woods till he falls off a cliff?
I'm just imagining
Sure.
like a scene from Glee where they get like slushied, and then it's just a sad events of bullying of like high school. But just fantasize it a little bit. Throw in a cliff.
But kill them.
But kill them.
Naked.
It's like that one time they put salt rocks in the slushy and they threw it at Blaine, and he had a scratched cornea and he had to be written out of the show because in real life Darren Criss was going on Broadway for a few
No.
weeks and How to Succeed in Business without really trying, because he was taking over for Nick Jonas, who took over for Daniel Radcliffe.
I didn't know this
I had no-
backstory.
I lived on the internet in the year 2011.
That's right, nerds. This was just a convoluted way to introduce the new podcast, Glee Lore.
That's the
Okay,
next season. Stay tuned.
So, Túrin is like, oh no, Dad's gonna kill me.
I might have done something bad. Maybe I shouldn't have put rocks in the slushy.
Baelig was standing there and kind of like or either he was there when it happened or he heard what happened. And so he's like, come on, bro, let's go back.
I believe it's Mablung who's there.
Oh, it's Mablung. That's it.
Yeah.
In my brain, they're interchangeable.
Co-worker.
Even though like different things happens to them, in my head, they're just interchangeable.
They are basically the same. They're both just two captains of Doriath, and whenever anything happens, it's either one of those two getting involved.
So Mablung is like, all right, come on, buddy. Let's go back and talk to Thingol and explain what happened. And I'm sure he's going to pardon you. Don't worry about it. I'll be there to defend you. This was just a terrible accident. And also, like, Túrin was defending himself, too, because Saros came at him. And, like, Túrin was just minding his own business. And then this elf who has beef with him just, like, decided to come at him. And, you know, it's not Turin's fault that he decided to fight back, you know?
Yeah.
And I also don't think... I think this was just a freak accident, you know? I don't think Túrin... If he had, like, pushed him off the cliff, you know, fine, that's different. But
it's the stripped
either way,
naked part. How did you accidentally?
Yeah, I don't get that.
It sounds like
Saros
waylaid him and basically with like a sword, and Saros had a sword, and Túrin basically took the sword and was like, strip naked. And I feel like he was going to humiliate
fleeing
him.
in terror before him. Wait, no. Oh, it just says, Túrin overcame him and set him to run naked as a hunted beast through the woods. That's all it says.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe he was holding him at, I don't know, sword point and was
I feel like he did
take
do
off
that.
your clothes and go streaking through the forest now. Like, that's a funny prank. And then he died by mistake. So
Oops.
Either way, however this happened, accident, not an accident, Túrin is like, no way am I going back there. He's going to kill me. I'm going to be exiled. I'm peacing out. Bye. And he refuses to go and see Thingol for fear of not being pardoned and being, you know, imprisoned or put to death. And then, not surprisingly, Thingol says, I would not have any say that Túrin was driven forth unjustly into the wild, and gladly would I welcome him back, for I loved him well. And so everyone's like, well, I guess Turin's just in the woods now because he thinks he's in trouble, even though he's not.
It's like when you're like, okay, we were gonna have to tell Dad, and your sibling's like, no, don't tell Dad.
It's like,
it's just like breaking down.
It's fine.
I'm running away.
And this is also just like a classic, like 90s sitcom miscommunication trope of a family, you know, where like the kid thinks that they're going to be in trouble, so they run away, but the parents are like, I mean, yeah, I'm disappointed in what happened.
But it's going to be a learning opportunity for everyone.
But I still love you. And then, you know, that sentimental Full House music comes in and
faded.
Thingol's like, you know, sometimes you accidentally kill a naked man. It's okay.
Just
like, still love
put a
you.
hand.
Yeah,
back in my day.
So Túrin finds this band of outlaws. He eventually becomes their captain.
Puts on a leather jacket, pulls out a switchblade. He's like, time to be a street
puts on
tough.
Some aviators or something, yeah.
Time to join West Side Story.
Yes. And he names himself Nathan the Wronged. So
Nathan. I'm Nathan now.
Or Nathan, yeah.
Nathan the Wronged.
And again,
West Side Story
no one gave him this name. This is a theme that in my reading and interpretation of this chapter, is very reoccurring that like he put this on himself. He is doing this to himself. Literally, no one is making him be exiled from Doriath. No one is giving him the name Wronged, you know?
This guy is... People are giving him names, and then he's giving himself names. I'm actually looking on the Tolkien Gateway article on him, just to double-check things. He has at least 9 names.
He has too many names.
And that is one too many.
Granted, one of them, remember
one of them is Wild Man of the Woods, which Saros calls him as an insult, and I'm like, that doesn't count. But also, he's just going around naming him. He's like, I'm the Wronged, or my name is Black Sword, Master of Doom, or something.
He's very
I'm
much
Batman.
an emo boy. He is so self-loathing, self-deprecating, and because I don't know why. I don't know why he's like, no, I'm doomed, and everyone's like,
see more fan art of him depicted with spiky black hair and like very heavy eyeliner.
He definitely shops at Hot Topic.
Yes, 100%. I was picturing him with the classic like
swoop over the one eye.
Swoop,
yeah, like 2011 to 2013 Tumblr.
Then you have Jock
swoop.
Beleg with his Letterman jacket, just like, hey,
coming
in.
It's my favorite trope. It is my favorite trope. I love them.
So, speaking of which, so Túrin is like, I must live a life among the outlaws. And then meanwhile, in Doriath, Beleg is like, hey, I really care for this kid. Do you give me permission to go and, I guess for the rest of my life, I'll just like kind of look after him.
And then I think Thingol like lets him go because he's like, I don't want anyone to think I'm a bad person. And it's like, Thingol, honey, you've already done enough to make people think you're a bad person.
Oh my god. Beleg goes out looking for Túrin, and he gets captured by this band of outlaws. And then, I don't know, I guess like brought to camp, and then Túrin, they're like, we're taking you to see the king. And then, it's Túrin. They're like, hey, I know this guy. He's cool.
I actually love him.
They kind of march off by themselves to have a conversation together. And Beleg is like, oh my god, good news. Thingol pardoned you. Like, he doesn't care at all that this like freak accident with this naked guy in the woods happened.
No one liked Saros. It's fine.
Yeah, we didn't even like him anyway. He was kind of a jerk. Not much of a loss for our community, honestly. So like, it's all good. You should come back to Doriath. It'll all be great. He's also telling him of the war going on. And he's like, there's this battle happening with some orcs on... Listen, listeners, like in many chapters, we're not going to concern ourselves with the geography, really. Just know that, like, battles are happening
probably
in
north
places,
somewhere.
Yeah. And so Beleg is like, come with me and fight and, like, do all this stuff. Like, you're totally pardoned. You can join us again. It's all good. And it says, but in the pride of his heart, Túrin refused the pardon of the king, and the words of Beleg were of no avail to change his mood. So he is just dead set on, like, he's very stubborn. He's like, no, I made this decision to live as an outlaw, and now I have to live with that for the rest of my life. There's no going back.
So broody.
And Beleg's like,
I don't know, Beleg. I'm just a bad guy. Lights a cigarette. Just
yes.
Get over it, you nerd.
So Beleg is like, okay, I guess if you're happy out here, if that's what you want, I'll be over here if you need me. Bye. Oh, this is when he goes back to Beleg goes back to Thingol and asks for permission to guard and guide Túrin for the rest of his life, basically.
And I do love how, like, when he comes back, he tells Thingol that man, I'm running out of names. Túrin is not coming back, and Thingol literally says, Thingol sighed, and he said, what more would Túrin have me do?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what else to do here.
Okay.
Like, I gave him... Like, there's nothing else for me to do here. Like,
I was too controlling with my one kid, and now my adopted kid, I'm trying to pull back on that, and that's still not a good thing. I can't do anything right.
That's true. He can't do anything right.
So here's a cursed sword, Beleg. Go have fun.
Yes, the swords. Okay. But not without a little backstory first, Thingol says, you can choose from my, our collection of swords as a reward or a fee or whatever for doing this. For going out to watch over Túrin. And he's like, you can have anything except for my sword. And Beleg chooses Anglakel. And this is a sword that was forged by Egil. And Egil also forged Thingol's sword?
Thingol Eol forged 2 swords. Anguirel is Eol's sword that he had.
Oh, yeah.
And Maeglin stole that one. Mm-hmm. And then the other one he gave to Thingol basically as rent. He's like, hey, I'm going to live in Nan Elmoth, but I know that belongs to you. Here's my rent. And he just kind of throws this cursed sword made from a meteorite at him. And he's like, okay, cool,
Excellent.
thanks. More landlords should accept cursed swords as
Yes,
rent.
I agree.
In this economy.
However, apparently these swords work much like the wands in Harry Potter. Because Melian looks at this and says, there is malice in this sword. The dark heart of the smith still dwells in it. It will not love the hand it serves, neither will it abide with you long. So this sword is not, Baelig is not this sword's master or whatever. Like, I don't know what's going, they have personalities and moods.
And meanwhile, Balig's just like, yeah, I'm going to ignore your warning, literal goddess.
Yeah, he
and
says,
just be like,
nonetheless, I will wield it while I may. He's like, but
He
it's cool.
had
dude,
any
It's
weapon
cool.
to choose
could
from.
have picked anything. Why'd you have
And
to
you
pick
know
the
why?
really,
he loves
like,
the dark
obviously
and
cursed
brooding
sword?
types.
I was gonna
Oh my
say,
God.
if you
He
showed
loves
me an
the dark
armory
and brooding types.
and it was like all these like silver, shiny, and like gold, like perfect weapons, and then you said, oh yeah, here's our one black sword, we think it's cursed, I would be like, I'm picking that one. I'm obviously picking the black
I'm
sword.
stressed. I'm
So
stressed.
just imagine him picking up the sword and going, it reminds me of Túrin.
That's why he
I'll
picked
take
it.
this one.
It's dark and stormy, just like he is. And then Melian gives him some lembas bread. Yay, lembas! She wraps it, the way that she like bounds it and wraps it and ties it, is very, it's very like traditional and very, ceremonial. For the keeping and the giving of lambas belong to the queen alone. So this is a very important thing and service that she has done for Baelig.
And it's the first time a human has ever been given lembas as well.
Oh, really? Oh.
Wait, is Baelig human?
No, Baelig. Well, she gives it to Baelig, but
And then he later gives it to
because she's
humans.
like, "Hey, give it to Túrin."
Right.
It's like, here, have some cake with your friend.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll calm him. Maybe have some bread, and you'll
maybe
calm
he needs
down.
some bread. Yeah.
Maybe he's hungry. He just needs a Snickers bar.
It's not. Yeah, he's
You're not
him when he's angry.
you're hungry. So meanwhile, Baelig is still. Oh wait, no, sorry. Túrin is still hanging out with the outlaws, and they come across 3 dwarves, and they shoot after 2 of them, and then they capture one of them, and his name is Mim.
It's meme.
You're kidding.
No, that little
said
little
the same
triangle
thing.
above it is meme. This is
I was
this guy
like-
is meme.
I was like, there's an accent there, but there's no way it's meme. Okay, so
All
this
these fancy names, and then there's memes.
It's just like
and then meme.
it's just a picture of him shrugging, and the caption's like, "Get captured, show them the way into Amon Ruth." It's like,
Oh my gosh. So he pleads for his life with Túrin and offers as ransom to lead them to his, it says his hidden halls, his, sanctuary house, whatever you want to call it. So he leads Túrin and his men to this hidden, to this hill, and there's this cave that he, through, certain paths he leads them to. And as they're approaching, so on top of this hill is this group of flowers that are growing, and they're red flowers. And so from a distance, one of the men say, there is blood on the hilltop, which is just so,
and Túrin's like, metal, we're going there.
I think I literally wrote,
Everything Túrin does is for the aesthetic.
oh, I thought I
Be
literally
hardcore.
wrote down, that's so metal. It's so, yeah. So they go into this cave where Meme is met by another dwarf, and Túrin follows them into the back room and finds his son, Keem,
Yeah.
who, it says,
Keemstar.
He's lying there dead, and he says, "You can give him no aid, for this is Keem, my son. And he is dead, pierced by an arrow. He died at sunset." And then Túrin says, "Alas, I would recall that shaft if I could." And I'm like, was this not the other dwarf that y'all shot at? Because the other two dwarves with Meme ran off, and they shot at them. And then here Turin's like, if only I recognize that arrow. Oh no.
I think he means if I could recall it as like, if I could
take it back.
If I could take it back.
Oh.
He's not like, oh no, who could have done that? Oh my god.
His arrows.
He's just, hide the arrows. I think it's definitely like, if only I could
take it back.
It back.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Which I can't believe that Meme lets them stay there then. Like, I can't believe he's just so chill with, like, being with the people who killed his son, you know?
Well, he does say, like, I will pay him his, like, wealth and gold. And Meme's
which doesn't ever happen.
Yeah. Wait, well, I think it maybe does. I don't know.
Yeah,
but...
Túrin says, if I ever come into any wealth, I will pay you a ransom of gold for your son in token of sorrow. It's like,
sorry,
like,
I killed your son.
You speak like a dwarf lord of old. That's pretty rad. I like gold. Cool.
Here's some money I don't have yet, but when I do,
I'll give it to you. And no, it won't make anything
you one
better.
son.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So they stay there for the winter and spring, and Meme tells Túrin about who he is and like his people. They came from this group of dwarves that were banished in the ancient days from the great dwarf cities in the east. Before Morgoth came back into Beleriand even, they came into Beleriand. And, let me see. I think even...
These were the first dwarves that the elves met. And the Sindar hunted them because Sindar thought they were the only
they were gonna be like
sentient people in the world.
Yeah.
And so they hunted them because they're like, what are these weird creatures? And then they met the dwarves of the Blue Mountains, and they're like, okay.
I wanted to read this one quote. That's right. Okay, so back when Túrin has first taken Meme captive, and Meme is, trying to bargain for his life, and he in turn asks where his home is, he says, Amon Rud is that hill called now, since the elves changed all the names. Which I just think, like the elves are full-on colonizers. And even more so, to what happened to Meme's group of elves when they came into Beleriand. Yeah, they're all hunted because the elves don't know, like, who they are. And even afterwards, they are named the petty dwarves. And it says they love none but themselves. And they hated they're not, they're not on Morgoth's side at all, but they also look down upon the Noldor. They're not looking to be friends with them. It says the Noldor, they said, had stolen their lands and their homes. So,
I mean, to be fair, like, the lands were pretty empty before the Noldor came. Like, you had Doriath, and that was basically it.
I don't know. I'm very wary of how the Silmarillion describes and depicts the other races, because it's from the perspective of the elves. And so I'm like, okay, so they're this group of elves is nicknamed the petty dwarves. And I'm like, okay, but how, like, I wonder how accurate that actually is. And like, we do see from Nim's characteristics in this chapter that I think that could be said true, but also he's the last of his kind, as we've learned, that it came down to just being him and his two sons. They killed the other son, so it's just him and his other son now of this group of dwarves in Beleriand.
Yeah.
So winter approaches, and all the men are getting sick. They're weak now, and one night they're sitting around the fire, And this dude just walks up and sits down with them. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? And he pulls his hood off, and it's Beleg. And he like laughs a bit and is like, what a funny joke.
Turin, I've returned to you. Look at my new cursed sword.
I bring you a gift of a cursed sword and cake.
And some bread, yeah. So and also he brings him the dragon helm. So he brings them this super important set of armor.
Babe, you forgot your emo helmet.
And it says, he brought it thinking that it might lift Turin's thought again above his life in the wilderness as the leader of a petty company. So he's like, maybe this will remind him that like he has this legacy behind him. And Turin is more like, oh, cool armor, thanks.
This will help with the aesthetic.
I'm glad you brought this. I forgot. Yeah.
Bella constantly overestimates Turin's like reading comprehension, basically.
Yes. And like he also, I think everyone underestimates just how like how committed Turin is now to this, like, no, my life is broken and I'm a shattered person. And like so during this time, Beleg gives all of the men lame bus and it heals them. And so he is well liked among the men. And then Meme is like, I guess, just like skulking in the shadows of his like cave, staring at him. And he obviously, you know, Beleg is an elf, first of all, so he doesn't like him automatically for that. And then he comes in and is like all of a sudden the cool new guy of the group. Oh yeah. And then like just so random, it goes, who knows now the councils of Morgoth?
Oh, remember that guy?
What was he doing? We don't know.
I love that it's like, yeah, who knows what he's up to anyway. And then this long paragraph about like the malice and like everything he's up to. He's a dark lord, blah, blah, blah. And then it says like, who could possibly even know what he's up to? Save only Melian, the queen. And I'm like, why don't we like utilize her more? Tolkien, why don't we do more with her? And she is the only one. It says, to her often the thought of Morgoth reached out and there was foiled. So she's like the one person that Morgoth is like, I can't get to her.
She's basically the proto-Galadriel, because in like the books, Galadriel's like, Sauron's always looking for me. And meanwhile, Melian's like, Morgoth's always looking for me in my secret forest. Here's some Lembas.
Not gonna find me, not today. Yeah, here's some Lembas. That's what my power is for now these days. So this is just kind of like, I guess, our transition back into like, hey, Morgoth, remember that guy? He's doing some bad stuff, and the bad stuff is coming for us.
Surprise. Yeah,
so Turin, he puts back on the dragon helm, and he and Beleg, and I think maybe the rest of the men, they go out to fight the orcs, and I think and then like rumors of this spread of like, oh my gosh, this it says the helm and bow that had fallen in Dimbar had arisen beyond hope. So this word of the two captains, these like really cool soldiers.
Tolkien gave them a ship name, Helm and Bow. I love them so much.
And Morgoth hears about them and is like, well, obviously we got to do something about that. So he sends some orcs down in that area, and they run into Meme. They run into Meme. And he pulls another, I don't know, Uno reverse. I don't know, whatever. He does the exact same thing again.
His running theme is getting captured, and to get out of it going, let me show you the secret cave.
House. Yeah.
The secret tunnel.
He's like, so many secret tunnels. So many secret tunnels here. And so he's like, if you let me go, and also if you promise not to kill Turin, I will lead you to where everyone else is. I'll lead you to my house. And they're like, oh, we promise we're not going to kill him. Meanwhile, like nudging each other and like winking. And so they have a bit of a battle. But then Túrin is, and Beleg is knocked down, and Túrin is captured and taken away. Meme, meanwhile, was like watching all this from the background, and he sees that Beleg, he assumes is dead, and then he goes over to him and is about to like deal the finishing blow, but Beleg is like, "Rawr!" and scares him off. It's like
Surprise,
all it says. Just, he like yells at him. He's like, "I'm still alive!" And then it says that Meme is like runs away. Yeah, it says, "In terror, fled wailing from the hilltop." And that's it.
Does he not come back? Is that the last we see of him?
I don't know. I really don't know. So I guess who knows? And see, that's the thing with the Silmarillion, is that anytime a character is not like explicitly cut down right in front of my eyes, I'm like, nah, we're going to see them again. And a lot of times you don't. And like, it's these random side characters of no consequence that I'm like, they're going to come to play later. Time. They're going to come back later.
Enough maybe for a future like Amazon Prime to play with. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Beleg follows the trail of orcs to find Túrin, and he comes across Gwyndor, who is recovering. He's like fallen in the forest and no one is around. So if he fell in the forest and no one was around, does it make a sound? Anyway, okay. Anyway, so Gwyndor is lying there. He has just escaped from Angband, or from Morgoth, and he is not doing well. And Beleg, for some reason, is like, "Come with me." And he's like, "Okay.
I've obtained a companion." It's like, this man's half dead. Look how skinny he is.
I was like, he just escaped Morgoth.
What help is he gonna be?
And his like, he just escaped the orcs, and like, he's recovering. He's traumatized. Like, and now you're trying to get him to come with you back in that same direction. Like, let's just leave the man alone, you know? Let's let him live his life. So yeah, so together they go through the forest because Gwyndor's like, "Oh, I think I've seen where they've gone." So he leads them, and they see the orcs and Túrin, and they're at a camp and everyone's asleep. So Beleg and Gwyndor sneak over while the orcs are sleeping, grab Túrin, pull him away.
To be so
then
sad.
As Beleg is cutting him, I should mention there's a storm happening, so it's very dark. They're having trouble seeing what they're doing, seeing each other, and they're cutting his bonds off. And it
with
says,
their black sword in the night.
"Fate that day was more strong, for the blade slipped as he cut the shackles, and Túrin's foot was pricked. Then he was aroused into a sudden wakefulness of rage and fear." And he sees Beleg and Gwyndor over him, and it's dark and it's stormy, and he's just been, captured by the orcs. And so, thinking that they're the orcs, he grabs Beleg's sword and kills him.
And that's why you don't have favorite characters in the Silmarillion.
And that's why
they will die.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, I was like, "Paul, you fooled me. You let me tell you how much I love this character just to have him die in front of me."
Yeah.
And this is a podcast, so people can't see my notes, but it literally is just like, other page, me saying no. My boy.
I had one of those moments, but it's not for another couple pages. Also, listeners, again, very similar with the Baron and Luthien chapter. Like, I'm trying to move through this story swiftly, but so much happens, and like we're not even 10 pages into it. We're just at 10 pages, and there's still like 15 more. So like, I'm trying to move through.
Some goes down.
Yeah, a lot goes down.
And there's nothing you can really go over or skip because it's a telenovela.
Wild stuff.
Wild indeed. Okay, so Beleg has just been killed. In this moment, I'm like, I want to see this scene on, in a movie. The lightning flashes and reveals what Túrin has done. And he sees that he has just killed Beleg. And meanwhile, the lightning is casting this light on Túrin's face as he is like scared. He's horrified. And Gwyndor cowers before him because he's afraid that Túrin is now going to kill him. Just like so intense. And then the thunder is going so hard that the orcs wake up. And it says they feared the thunder that came out of the west, believing it was sent against them by the great enemies beyond the sea. So they think this storm is the Valar, if only it was.
Where have they been? Do they want to come help a little bit?
No.
Are they watching
One
what's
of them
going down?
sort of helps in this chapter. And that's about all you can say about them.
They're like, nah, this is too crazy. We're going to stay out of this.
Even though it's their fight is the thing that... I'm cutting myself off before I go into this rant for the billionth time. The orcs are also... They wake up and they look around and they're like, oh my god, Túrin's gone. Well, I'm assuming he would have just run off by now, and he's probably so far gone that we can't even find him anymore. So let's just go home. So they leave and go back and tell Morgoth. They're like, yeah, I don't know what happened. He left. Weird. Meanwhile, Gwyndor and Túrin have just been sitting there in the same spot, like right on the other side of the encampment where they were, because Túrin is horrified at what he's done. So I just love that little moment where the orcs just assume that Túrin would have run off by now, and so they don't really bother to, like, bare minimum effort.
Again, the miscommunication here. No one's talking, no one's looking.
So funny. So Túrin takes, what's this kid's name? Túrin takes Beleg's sword, and he takes the lame boss, and then they bury him, and they bury him with his bow too. And Gwyndor tries to bring Túrin along, but it says the grief that was graven on the face of Túrin never faded. So he is just like struck down to his core by what has happened here and what he has done.
As he should be. He killed my favorite character.
Yeah. So I will say, so all of the events of this chapter, as I've said previously, like it's all like grand scheme of things, it's all Túrin's fault. I think, because if he had just gone back to Doriath because Thingol 100% forgave him, none of this would be happening. However, when you get into like the minor details, like this was another like freak accident, you know, this was not his fault. I mean, it was his fault, but like he didn't
how
mean
could he have
to.
known?
Partially his fault.
Yeah.
Also, Beleg, when someone gives you a cursed sword, don't pick it. I also think there's a little bit of that.
The aesthetic.
It really bit him in the butt.
Now it's even more cursed.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I think... Oh, yeah, it says the dread sword Anglikel. Is that it? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Anglikel.
Anglikel. But the dread sword Anglikel Gwyndor took, saying that it were better to take in vengeance... Oh, wait, no, sorry. I thought there was a moment where it mentioned him taking it and the sword being, like, extra.
I think there is.
There's definitely something about, like, the sword knows what it has done. Like, the sword knows that it killed... Okay, whatever. Too much happens in this chapter for me to try and find one
I'm sure we'll come back to it.
Right. So... Gwyndor leads Túrin out of this area and in the direction of Nargothrond, and they come across this lake that he says is fed from crystal fountains unfailing and guarded from defilement by Ulmo. And so Túrin drinks from this water and is healed of his madness. Nothing like magic water. Love it. Oh, that's right. This is it. Yeah, okay. So then Gwyndor gives him the sword, and he says, "This is a strange blade, and unlike any that I have seen in Middle-earth. It mourns for Beleg even as you do, but be comforted." That's about, like, the least comforting thing I think you could ever say.
Be comforted. This cursed sword is mad at you. Well, great.
Yeah, it says, "But be comforted, for I return to Nargothrond of the House of Finarfin, and you shall come with me and be healed and renewed." Oh yeah, and then Túrin also he just says, "Who are you?" Which is so
Wait
funny.
a minute. Who are you?
Thank you. You know that reference.
Turin literally drinks the water and then pulls that meme.
Wait a minute. Who are
then he pulls
children?
It. Oh
for
my
anyone
god!
listening,
Turin is the Kazoo Kid.
Everyone go watch the Kazoo Kid right now, because I say that all the time and I think people just think I'm insane.
Oh, and we missed out as soon as he Turin drinks the water, then throws himself down and cries a lot, then immediately writes a song about Beleg.
Very Taylor Swift of him.
That's right.
Then Turin knelt and drank from the water, and suddenly he cast himself down, and his tears were unloosed at last, and he was healed of his madness. There he made a song for Beleg, and he named it Ler Cu Beleg, the song of the great bow.
He is so extra.
He is. This, you know what? I think we deserved a little bit of, everyone else has been a bit too reasonable.
Dance break, music break, you know?
I'm just imagining Turin running through, singing Bet on It through the fields, really having an angsty moment.
Same energy. Oh my gosh.
Casts his hand in the lake.
God.
So so they go to Nargothrond together. Oh, that's right. Okay. That's right. Turin asks him, he's like, oh, you were in that battle. Do you know anything of what happened to my father, Hurin? And Gwyndor's like,
it's not good, bud.
He says that he hasn't seen him, but rumor has it he's been captured by Morgoth, and Morgoth laid a curse upon him and all his kin. That I do believe, said Turin.
Cue the Michael Scott picture of him going, ugh.
I think this is really where Turin is like, oh, I get there's so much to be said about fate versus making your own fate, you know? I mean, the entire first season of The Witcher is all about you can't escape your destiny, and or do you make your own destiny, and all of that. So there's so much to be said about that. But I think hearing that Morgoth put a curse upon his father and his kin, I think Turin is like, oh, that makes sense why my life is terrible. I'm going to fully lean into this curse. And anything bad that happens, any bad decisions I make,
that's not
anything
on me
at all,
that's on the curse.
It's the curse's fault, it's the curse.
And then I'll just change my name again and just write it out.
Just keep changing my name. Just keep it going.
They get to Nargothrond, and he's like, my name is Bloodstained, son of ill fate. And it's
gosh.
Get over yourself,
with
dude.
And
it's also you're literally saying that, okay? It's not the fancy Elvish word, because everyone here speaks Elvish. They know you're saying Bloodstained, son of ill fate.
Yeah.
You are not fooling anyone.
You're telling on yourself here. Yes. So they get to Nargothrond. Reminder for everyone, there is Orodreth, the brother of
Finrod.
I knew it was a Finn. Couldn't remember which one.
There's so
brother
of
Finrod, who is now, and Orodreth is now the leader of Nargothrond, and his daughter Finduilas.
Finduilas.
That's what she said.
Before Gwyndor went to war, she liked him and he liked her, but he comes back, and as a stint in the Morgoth prison of torture will do to a person, he comes back looking all haggard, and they say that it looks like he is aged like a man, like a human. Mm-hmm. So he's not looking great. So that's, kind of context for where we're at. Yeah, they're introducing everyone, and Gwyndor's about to be like, yeah, and this is, and then Turin goes, I'm Bloodstained, ill-fated son, or whatever it is.
Exactly, someone I would love to meet at a party.
Yes. Oh my god.
And then he gets there and is immediately like, this cursed sword isn't cursed enough. Can you guys reforge it? And now, instead of, I believe, originally Anglicel meant iron of leaping flame, or flaming iron, because it was from a meteor. And now he's like, nah, now it's Gurthang, which means iron of death. And it's just like, oh my god.
Okay. So he has come to Nargothrond. He is going by this fake name. And then as he, chills there for a while, he grows in the favor of Orodreth, and everyone loves him now. And then, he reforges the sword. And in this process, and like everyone loves him. So he gets another name called Adenthel.
Adonithel, the elf man.
Adonithel. Yeah, the elf man, which I think is a much nicer nickname to go by, but he's like,
better than the other
Bloodstain. I'm Bloodstain, ill-fated son.
No, just try and be elf man for a little bit. See how it goes.
Literally, like, 2 sentences later, they give him another name.
Yes! So after he reforges the sword to be the Iron of Death, he and the sword, like, together, like, him as, you know, like, a warrior, is known to be called Mormagil, the Black Sword.
That's his superhero name. They give him, like, this dwarf mail and a dwarf mask to wear, and it's like, now he's a superhero. Now he's Batman. He's going into battle.
Yes. This is, it says he put it on before battle and his enemies fled before his face. And so this was when I started thinking, I was like, oh, maybe this is what's going to happen where like he's not going to be recognized, or maybe like Thingol or another person from Doriath is going to come looking for him in the battle, but they're going to think he's the enemy in this get-up and they're going to kill him.
If only it were that simple.
If only that happened, right?
If this was Shakespeare, possibly.
This chapter is very Shakespearean for a lot of different reasons. Finduilas.
It's a hottie.
Turin. Remember guys, Turin is like
boy.
The hot bad boy. He's the
he's got cigarettes.
Dark.
He smokes.
Yes, he totally has cigarettes. And he's like, hey, you want to smoke? I won't tell your dad.
Want to smoke behind Nargothrond?
Yes.
Come on.
She falls in love with him, but Turin, it just says Turin did not perceive what had befallen. So I just also love this. I just also love this idea that he is just so dead set on being brooding and depressed his whole life that he doesn't even notice
when time for girls.
An elf is in love with you.
And meanwhile, Gwyndor is just standing there like, really? Right after I got out of prison? Really?
Yeah. He's like, is it because I look like I was tortured for an eternity? I'm an
emaciated person that have no like fat on my bones.
Like that
These
feels a
gray
bit
hairs.
ageist and ableist to me, but okay. And so Gwyndor then takes Finduilas. Why can I not remember? Finduilas.
There we go.
Finduilas. Takes Finduilas aside and is like, okay, I'm telling you this because I care about you. But this boy means danger. Danger is his middle name. He is nothing good for you.
To follow the 6 other first names that also mean danger.
Yes.
Get the hint. Get the hint.
And I think, I love this. It says, but this man is not barren. A doom indeed lies on him, as seeing eyes may well read in him. Which, first of all, I love that, like, he Turin probably
cursed,
thinks like,
guys.
I'm so mysterious, and literally everyone is like, no, we can obviously tell that like there's something bigger going on with your life, you know, like we can all tell. Anyway, a doom indeed lies on him, but a dark doom. So it's this idea now doom. That like
Dark
Baron and Luthien at this point, their story has made the rounds, and Finduilas
is like, could that be me? It's like, honey, it's not you.
Yes. She is 100% romanticized Baron and Luthien and is like, oh my god, it's my own Baron. And he's like, girl, no. Run, no.
It's the cursed
Baron was
brand.
Too preppy.
Yes. All of those things.
We have Baron at home. The Baron at home. And it's
Turin. Oh my gosh, yes. She thinks that it's like the real life version of like teenagers thinking Romeo and Juliet is so romantic and beautiful, but then like in reality, like it's such a toxic, terrible story
they
about
were in
like,
love
do
for
you
like
really
a week
know what
and
happens?
then killed themselves.
Like, yeah, nothing good happened there. So at this point, I'm like, you know what, Gwyndor, I'm with you. I'm with you on all this of warning her, being like, no, girl, stay away.
But then he does just out him as well. He's like,
he kind of like takes it a little bit too far, and he reveals that this is Túrin, son of Hurin, who Morgoth has cursed. And Finduilas goes, "Aw, that's so sad. He'll never love me." And like, that's all she kind of takes away.
Gwendor
She's like,
looks at the camera.
she's like, "I don't care about literally anything that you said. All I heard is his real name is Túrin, and he is never going to be in love with me."
And this is also just kind of a sad thing of Gwendor saying, "This is Túrin, son of Hurin, whom Morgoth holds in Angband, and whose kin he has cursed. Doubt not the power of Morgoth Bauglir. Is it not written in me?" And he's like, "Look what happened to me."
Me, yeah.
And he's cursed. He hates this guy in particular. I was just an elf he captured. I was a nobody. He actually knows this guy's name. He knows his name. It's
yeah.
like,
Will there be any bigger warning signs? Red flag. Red flags everywhere.
Red flags all over the place. And still she's like...
He's a 10, but he's got 9 names,
he's
has
been
a cursed blade,
by Morgoth,
and accidentally killed his best friend / love interest.
Yes, it's a lot of red flags.
Yikes.
Then Finduilas... God!
You can do it. I have faith in you. Come on, one more try.
Then Fendi goes and talks to Túrin, and it's like, weird conversation I had with Gwendor. And Túrin,
what the hell?
You know, is like, "Gwendor, not cool, man, not cool."
It's like, "I love you, man."
He's like, "How dare you call my doom upon me, from which I hid?" And Gwendor says, "The doom lies in yourself, not in your name."
I would love to just see an adaptation of this, because you get lines like this. You get like a good argument between these two. Just honestly, like this is like some of the most dialogue we really get in the Silmarillion, because a lot of it is just stuff. Like, "Oh, and then they traveled to Blabadiboo and fought a great battle there." But now we actually get like sentences that they're saying to each other.
That's good stuff.
And that is where we're going to leave this week's episode. Now, I know what you're thinking. You said that there's no more room for 2-parter episodes before Rings of Power begins. And you are correct. But we talked about that drama queen Turumbar for 2.5 hours. There's simply no way that I can cut that down to 1 episode. So, to stay on track for Rings of Power, I will release part 2 this Saturday for Second Breakfast Saturday. Except for it's not going to be a little bonus episode that you might usually skip, which, by the way, you definitely shouldn't do that. It's going to be a normal episode. It's just going to be released on Saturday because we don't have time. We're running out of time. I cannot believe it's August already. We're running out of time. Anyway, so stay tuned for part 2 coming up later this Saturday. And then, of course, we will move on to the next chapter on Tuesday. That's What I'm Talking About is a proud member of WBNE. If you want to learn more about the network, you can go to WBNE.org. The cover art is by Vaishon Brandon. You can support him on Instagram at Vaishon Designs. You can get merch for That's What I'm Talking About by going to tpublic.com/user/talkingaboutpod. I get notifications every time an item is bought, so if you have recently bought an item and it arrives, show it off. Tag me in a post on social media. Speaking of which, you can follow the podcast on social media at talkingaboutpod, or you can follow me on Twitter at MCWhatsup and Instagram at MCTurnedDownForWhat. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/talkingaboutpod. You can join our Discord server. You can get access to bonus content, or you can become a sponsor of the podcast like Alan. Alan, thank you so much for your continued support of the podcast. You're a wonderful person for doing that. And I don't just mean that because, yes, I do like it when people enjoy my content, but it just takes an incredible kind of person to actively show your love and support for something, and I appreciate that. Just so I don't miss anything, I'm going to have Tori and Paul plug their own stuff.
Twitter is Sillymarillions, plural, because the Silmarillion was too many letters. We have a Patreon, and that one is
patreon.com/thesillymarillion. We also have our own individual Twitters. I'm at goodlookinggeek, and Tori is at Toriello_. And
we have a podcast called The Sillymarillion, where you can listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts.
As always, all of that is linked in the episode description, so please make sure to go check them out. And to close this thing out, I will share the first ever man walks into a bar joke, which I learned on the podcast Endless Thread. They do really interesting dives into these stories from Reddit and the internet, and they went deep into the history of this translation of the earliest known bar joke, which is, a dog walked into a tavern and said, "I can't see a thing. I'll open this one." Don't get it? Literally no one alive does. And that's what I'm talking about.